This is the Great Sudoku for AngryMarks.com. You can get at me at Twitter. My handle there is at Great Sudoku. You can send me comments, feedback. This is my G1 Climax for the 25th of July 2015. Some great New Japan action. This probably rivals opening night. This was even better of a card than opening night from beginning to end. We'll get right to it. The preliminary matches were decent, but every single Block B match was a masterpiece in this card here. Block A is really going to need to bring it tomorrow because everybody tonight in Block B brought their A game, and there were some fantastic singles matches tonight. We'll start with the undercard with the tag matches. Your opening match of the night was Tama Tonga, Doc Gallows, and Cody Hall represent Bullet Club, taking on Tiger Mask, Jushin Liger, and Captain New Japan. Gallows picked up a win in this one with a sit-out two-handed chokeslam to Captain New Japan. It was a decent short opening match, and it was what an opening match should be. Not too much to talk about, but it was kind of entertaining, a good warm-up for the crowd. Match number 2 saw Toru Yano, Yoshihashi, and Gedo representing Chaos taking on Hiroyoshi Tenzin, David Finlay, and Mascara Dorada. This one, Yoshihashi just completely demolished Finlay. He ran right into a really stiff European uppercut. Yoshihashi goes to the top turnbuckle, comes off with a swanton splash, and picks up a pinfall victory there. But fortunately in this one, Toru Yano wasn't much of a distraction, wasn't much of getting on my nerves, didn't make me irate. Him actually squirting an entire water bottle onto Hiroshi Tenzin as the match was starting was actually kind of amusing, and him hitting Tenzin with some very mockingly weak Mongolian chops was kind of amusing too. So Toru Yano, you can pick your spots and be amusing, but sometimes you get on my nerves. Fortunately, you didn't have enough time to do that in the second match, and Yoshihashi ends up picking up the win for the Chaos in match number 2. Match number 3 here on the undercard, we had AJ Styles and Bad Luck Fale representing Bullet Club taking on Kota Ibushi and Jay White. Bullet Club picks up the win as Bad Luck Fale finally gets to hit his really interesting finisher, which is a one-handed choke lift into a clothesline with his other arm, and picked up the pinfall win there over Jay White. But man, Jay White finally did get in some offense in the match, and he laid a beating on Bad Luck Fale. He hit him with repeated running European uppercuts into the corner, some regular European uppercuts, some mounted elbow strikes in the corner. It was nice to see Jay White finally get some of his shit in. So, yeah, good for you, Jay White. AJ Styles really had some interesting spots in this match, too. There was a point where he used some great psychology taunting Kota Ibushi. He had Jay White in the ring, locked up. He had Jay White's arm just out of the reach of Kota Ibushi, and he was yelling at Ibushi, "You want to tag? You want to tag?" And it's that kind of ring psychology that I really enjoy seeing these days. It still goes on in places like New Japan Pro Wrestling. There's also a move where Styles had Ibushi up in a torture rack. He transitioned this into just a beautiful Blue Thunder driver variation, and Ibushi kicked out at 2, but it was still nice to see the Blue Thunder driver being used here in 2015. So Yohei Komatsu and Togi Makabe take on Katsuyori Shibata, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Ryosuke Taguchi. And thank goodness Tetsuya Naito did not come out to the ring in his skull in a suit getup, so he didn't get to use that gimmick. Maybe he only uses that for singles matches, but it was nice, to not have him take 10,000 years to disrobe and get ready for the match. For this match, Taguchi hit this really sloppy variation of Dodon that he transitioned Tiger Suplex into a code breaker. Interesting but sloppy looking move, and Shibata barely kicked out at 2.95. It was really, really close to being over. Taguchi, sensing that, picked Shibata back up, drilled him into the match with a proper Dodon, and picked up the pinfall victory. And this was a pretty exciting match for an undercard match. One point, I really saw the difference between Japanese fans and American fans. Shibata locked Makabe up into an abdominal stretch, and the crowd was like, "Ooh, ah!" And I tell you, that would only happen in Japan. An abdominal stretch here in America, fans would chant, "Boring." And once again in this match, Taguchi does his best Shinsuke Nakamura impression. He did the Michael Jackson hand gestures, the swagsuke, the between the legs taunt. Taguchi went for an ass first variation of the bomb AA, but fortunately Shibata had him scouted, rolled him up for a 2.9 count, and if that wasn't enough, Shibata followed that up with a rolling clutch pin for a 2.9 count as well. So yeah, it was good to see that the impersonation of Shinsuke Nakamura did not win for Taguchi this time. It didn't lead to a win like it did in the previous match that he was in there. But yeah, Taguchi was able to pick up the win, but at least with a proper finisher. So it was good to see him not win with Shinsuke Nakamura's finisher there. And That about takes care of it for the undercard there. The first match that we had in singles competition for G1 Climax B Block was Tomohiro Ishii versus Yujiro Takahashi, and despite a great deal of interference from Cody Hall at ringside, Ishii was able to pick up this hotly contested win by just planning Takahashi to the match with a high-angle brainbuster and getting a pinfall. This was a solid 3.5-star match. This is what I want to see when Bullet Club takes on Chaos. And just so you know, this wasn't all Ishii just completely squashing Takahashi. Takahashi had this impressive move where he hoisted Ishii up onto his shoulders and just planted him to the mat with an outsider's edge, transitioned into a pancake, and Ishii barely kicked out at 2.95. And that's not to say Ishii didn't, just flat out kill Takahashi with some spots either. There was a time when Ishii no-sold about 10 consecutive elbows from Takahashi and then just dropped Takahashi to the match like a brick with an elbow strike of his own. There was another time Ishii no-sold an elbow strike and then just dropped Takahashi to the mat with a headbutt, lifts him back up, power bombs him into the turnbuckle padding, and just leaves him there. That was pretty brutal. So yeah, it was a decent match there, and Tomohiro Ishii does pick up the win in your first G1 Climax B block match of the night. That is a tongue twister to say. The second B block G1 Climax match of the night was Michael Elgin versus Satoshi Kojima, and once again, kind of unfortunate to say, Michael Elgin looked very strong in a loss. Kojima did pick up the win, but at least he didn't do it like a total dick and no-sell everything like Hulk Hogan or Taz in this match. Yeah, there were some pretty good highlights for Elgin in this match. He hit a stalling suplex on Kojima where he squat lifted him twice while he didn't lift it up. That seems to be a regular spot that Elgin hits, and boy did he have Kojima hoisted up before he finally delivered the rest of that suplex to him, and it was good to see Elgin just Kojima like that. Elgin also hit this slingshot over the top rope into the ring, this body splash pin that Kojima kicks out of it too, but it's nice to see a guy as big as Elgin able to hit some of these more athletic lucha-style moves. Yeah, Elgin also floored Kojima with a rolling elbow that Kojima managed to kick out of it too. From like a roll-up style pin on Kojima, Elgin lifts Kojima off the mat hard way, hoists him up, holds him there, and just slams him back into the mat powerbomb style. It was pretty devastating. I mean, it was good to see Michael Elgin get some offense in, but yeah, Kojima picks up the win in this G1 Climax B block match. Next block B match of the night, we had Carl Anderson taking on Hiroku Goto, and this was just a strange match all around. As strange as that fan back in the fifth row who was wearing that white Jushin Liger mask that made his head look twice as big as his body. Very strange in the fact also that this was a clean match. No interference from Bullet Club, despite Cody Hall and Tama Tonga both being at ringside. And there was a very strange finish that I actually had to go back, rewind, and watch again because I couldn't figure out how Carl Anderson won this match. Goto hits the Uri Taroshi on Anderson. It looks like he's going to pick him back up and do a Shoten, I assume. But what ended up happening was Anderson transitioned that Shoten into a cutter midair and got the pinfall victory. I mean, if you blink, you miss it. It really looks like Goto drove Anderson right into the match, and somehow Anderson floated over and got the pinfall. But yeah, you really have to watch closely. I mean, even the fans were stunned. There was this collective ooh as Red Shoe's hand came down a third time and the bell rang to signal the match was over and that Anderson had won. They didn't know what happened. So yeah, it was a very hard to see cutter out of nowhere in midair that Anderson used to win the match and get the pinfall victory, a clean pinfall victory over Hiroki Goto. This was, a hotly contested match, but Anderson won, and Anderson didn't look weak, and Goto didn't look weak. I mean, there's a spot that Anderson does a lot where he just completely demolished Goto with this fisherman's neck breaker, just lifting him up fisherman suplex style and dropping the neck down across the knee back breaker style. And I like seeing Anderson do that spot, and it was nice to see him get a win over the IWGP Intercontinental Champion, in this G1 Block B match. Next match of the night, this is kind of your co-main event. This is the second to last match of the night. Shinsuke Nakamura took on Yugi Nagata, and boy, was this a barn burner. This was another hotly contested match. Nakamura ended up winning this one by pinfall after just clocking Nagata in the head with a high-running knee strike. After pretty much pulling out every other stop in his arsenal, he was finally able to take Nagata out with a running high knee strike to the head. This was an awesome match. It had an MMA feel to it at the beginning of the match. Each wrestler was jockeying back and forth, trying to get a hold, trying to get out of each other's guard, blocking kicks from the ground. Nakamura, for those who are interested, managed to secure the first decent submission hold of the match, putting a triangle hold on Nagata, who eventually managed to make his way to the ropes and break that hold. But yeah, boy, let me just tell you, there were some great spots into this match. Nagata had a lot of offense here. He did not look weak. He did not look old. He sent Nakamura flying into the corner with a head and arm suplex. He followed up with something I've never seen him do before, this rope-assisted twist of fate type net breaker that Nakamura somehow managed to kick out of at 2.6. Nagata cinches in a crippler crossface on Nakamura, who somehow manages to fight his way to the ropes, but it really looked like he had Nagata in trouble there. Nagata at one point had Nakamura just dead to rights with a Fujiwara armbar almost in the middle of the ring, and then he drags Nakamura into the middle of the ring, and Nakamura has nowhere to go. The only way he had managed to escape this hold was Nagata tried to transition this into a cross armbar, and that momentum of transitioning, it allowed Nakamura to roll to the ropes and break the hold. But yeah, Nakamura got in some offense of his own. He really went to town on Nagata, transitioning a sleeper hold into a lung brower, wanting to deal out some more punishment. Nakamura picked up Nagata, and just destroyed him with a backdrop suplex that sent Nagata bouncing on his neck and landing head over heels. And then near the finish, out of nowhere, Nakamura gets this knee sweep on Nagata, sends him to the mat, picks him back, knocks him down with a bomb-a before you could even blink, and Nagata kicks out barely at 2.9. Awesome match. I'm glad to see Nakamura go over Nagata. That's believable to me, but by no means did Yuji Nagata look weak in this match. They both look strong, but there is a reason that Shinsuke Nakamura is the king of strong style, and he gets the win in the co-main event here. Last match of the evening, this is the one that the faithful fans in New Japan wanted to see. Tomokai Honma versus Kazuchika Okada, and boy, were the fans split right down the middle for this one. As the match started, half of them were chanting Honma, Honma, the other half chanting Okada, Okada, and it was right down the middle. The fans, half of them were going for Honma, half of them for Okada. It wasn't like the other night where everybody was behind Honma, but fans were split right down the middle here. And what I really liked about this match is Okada is finally using some of these moves in his arsenal that have been dormant, that he hasn't used in a while. I was watching the match, and Okada locked the red ink submission on Hanma, and I'm like, finally! It is so good to see him use the red ink. I haven't seen him use that move in forever. Speaking of moves that Okada hasn't used in forever, he just planted Honma into the mat with Heavy Rain. First we see Red Ink, then we see Heavy Rain. Unfortunately, Red Shoes was really slow to get into position to make the count after Heavy Rain, and once he does get into position, 1-2 is counted normal, but really slow Red Shoes hand coming down on the third count. Okada followed that up with a package neck breaker, and we get another slow count from Red Shoes, which allowed Honma to kick out, but it was good to see Okada finally hit Heavy Rain and finally to see him lock in Red Ink. But yeah, there was a move I saw Honma do here close to the end of the match that almost ended it. I wasn't even aware that this was a finisher or a finisher that Honma uses. Just your normal, everyday looking shoulder breaker. And Honma hits this on Okada. The fans completely mark out. Red Shoes goes down, covers 1, 2, like 2.95. Okada barely kicks out. And I'm just flabbergasted that a move like a shoulder breaker is a finisher, but apparently it is, as Honma almost got the win with that. Finish to this match, you have Okada just driving Honma into the mat with a very high-angle German suplex pin, but instead of pinning him, he lifts Honma back up, spins him around, takes his head off with the Rainmaker Lariat, and 1, 2, 3, a 4-star match there. And the entire singles matches on this card just overall would get 4 stars from me. This was just kind of beginning to end, mostly the singles matches, but even your tag matches were just phenomenal on this card. If there's one night you're going to watch this week of G1 Climaxes, if you're trying to pick and choose the nights to watch tonight's matches, because they were just completely awesome. Again, this is the Great Sudoku for AngryMarks.com. If you'd like to comment on the G1 Climax, give me some feedback on my reviews, you can get at me on Twitter at Great Sudoku.